So I'll send you your headset tomorrow.
Okay.
You want sending me
Tomorrow.
the
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I won't be around tomorrow. Maybe Tuesday. I won't be at home tomorrow. Are you going to office
no
tomorrow?
work
So
Tuesday.
Tuesday.
So Wednesday then.
Yeah, when it works.
Okay. Um, Before we start, so I've already done intro. I usually just do intro. So we just begin. Is that fine?
Yeah, sure, no problem.
So welcome to the show, Ahmed. How are you doing?
Hey, everybody, I'm doing great. Nice to meet you.
Yes. So we want to speak a bit about SwiftXR and a couple of things. But before we speak about SwiftXR, I think it would be nice to introduce yourself and what you do.
Yes, thank you. So my name is Hammed Arowosegbe, and I'm a senior software engineer. Working currently with Voltio, where we're trying to build an human-centric metaverse. I'm also the founder and lead engineer at SwiftXR, where we're trying to bring no-code development of AR VR into Africa and make it affordable. I'm also the chapter president for the VR AR Association here in Nigeria, where we're trying to evangelize and get more stuff happening in our community. Yeah, that's
So how would you say the African XR community has been going so far?
yeah. I
Wh-
think it's definitely going fine and going good. I remember like 5 years or 4 years ago, you could
That's okay. I would edit those. Can continue.
yeah I mean, I remember like 5 years ago when we could unpick guys that actually doing stuff in the space, but now you actually can't unpick anymore. There are like a lot of people now, so I think that's definitely a plus. In terms of global. Yeah, I mean, coming from even our background when we started XR, we could actually unpick ourselves. But now you go on LinkedIn and you search ARVR in Nigeria, and there's just a lot of people. So I think it's going good.
Yeah. I think the XR ecosystem, at least in Africa, it's better than before. There is still a lot of growth and it's still growing. That is true. So can you give a bit of introduction about SwiftXR? Like what is the problem you are trying to solve? What is SwiftXR about?
Yeah, awesome, cool. So Swiftex actually came from it started from a personal problem that I faced, as a developer, right? Especially when you're developing web-based solutions, using stuff like, let's say, Babylon, A-Frame, 3JS on the web, right? There's a lot of repetition in terms of code. The kind of code base you use today for an app is also probably what you're going to use again the next time, right? So then what I was looking for was how exactly can I make that process easier or smoother or abstract it? So, and that was, what bet, SwiftXR, where can we build components on top of all those A-Frame, Babylon, and 3JS, right? Turn those stuff into blocks and then now enable people just drag and drop all those blocks. Again, it came from trying to see how I can streamline my own workflow. But so far, we've seen that it's also like a global problem that people are facing, from attraction that we are now across 41 countries in terms of users. So it's something that we've seen that, okay, it seems a lot of people are also thinking and lying in that space. And it's also like a problem people are trying to face. And in terms of how we're trying to, that's just like problem. In terms of like what we're trying to totally do, we want to enable people to be able to share 3D models or designs in AR or VR. And that's just like plain kind of description of what we're trying to do.
So instant sharing, are you focused on business or customers?
Yeah, I mean, definitely we're going both. I can't really say business or customer, right? Definitely we are targeting B2B for now, business, but majorly we're going both because our major customers are more like developers, right? Developers, 3D artists, again, just 3D generalists, right? And these people can be either a single person as a B2C. This same person can also be in a company and enterprise, and that will also be B2B. But the kind of people we're targeting for now is 3D generalists.
I see. So the problem, at least the core problem, is the fact that WebXR processes are kind of repetitive. People deploying their 3D assets on the web feels kind of repetitive, and SwiftXR is trying to cut that repetition away to speed up that process and make it easier for people to be able to deploy their solution or whatever they think about on the web instantly as fast as possible. Is that correct?
Exactly.
So I saw that you have some amazing features or some amazing features you've already executed or some amazing features you are looking to execute. Can you talk more about those features?
Yes, I mean, so majorly the way we're trying to ride on is trying to build a full-blown WebXR platform on the web. It's going to be really, really hard, right? And itself to say, okay, we are no code and we are really easy to use. That's why you can go on SwiftXR and 1, 2 drop, you've deployed your app, unlike other platform where you have to do 5 or 6 steps before you're done, right? So because of that, we are really, really careful to say, okay, how can we do some lightweight stuff? So in terms of what we've started completed, we've done NFT, and this is because we are currently in talks with some NFT marketplace to partner up with them, where we're going to serve all those marketplaces using SwiftXR API as an API to run already on top of the actual component that we recently launched, which is the goal was to aid artists where they could just upload their 2D assets and then instantly convert those 2D assets into 3D model. And one thing that we know, since we're lightweight, we've done really well is we do those process end to end, right? So you don't need to worry about stuff like optimization. You don't need to worry about stuff like file size and all, right? Just bring any kind of asset you want on SwiftXR, FBX, OBJ, get that kind of process to make it easier, right? Don't worry about converting files. Any file you bring, we're going to convert it for you. We're also going to help you optimize that file on demand and just make your build really, really lightweight.
So part of the stuff that I was talking about were like the NFT, 3D viewers, plane detection, image tracking. At least image tracking and face tracking are coming soon. What sort of features are those, and what are you hoping to implement? For example, the image tracking, the face tracking. What sort of features are you hoping to implement for those?
I mean, majorly for image tracking is because we've seen some of our B2B customers now actually asking for image tracking. Especially for guys in the real estate space. Even though what we have now is plane tracking where you can put on the floor, but some of them are looking to say, okay, can I start to put stuff, on, just like on their plan, you get what I mean? Like, can you project on the plan? Yeah. So we're trying to, work towards that to enable that. For face tracking, we've also got some potential clients who are also looking at, okay, how can we enable them in terms of reward system? Now, currently, it's really hard to build face filters. Not like really hard. It's hard to publish face filters cross-platform. You talk about Instagram, you talk about Snap, you talk about TikTok, right? And if you're trying to build face filter, you have to think about publishing to 3 or 4 of those mobile devices. But then if we can solve it, again, relatively easy on the web, that people can come, have a web link. Again, might not really be as grounded as what a native app is going to give them, but we can at least solve. So that's one of the things that is driving the face tracking feature.
I see. So one interesting thing about face tracking feature is at least the ones that are current now, at least the ones that are very advanced now, are the likes of the ones we've explained, Instagram, Facebook, which is deployed by SparkAI, which is developed by SparkAI, and TikTok. I've forgotten the name of their own development tools, right? And Lens Studio for Snapchat, right? So at least to an extent, you are looking to also build a tool that will be able to execute, maybe to know their complexity, but at least be able to track faces. And is that correct?
Exactly, to track faces and to also enable assets or 3D models or design to be placed on all those faces. Beyond just even deploying for reward system, this can also fit into web apps, especially for try-ons. Like companies trying to build e-commerce sites with try-ons. So we could use our normal 3D model to leverage it on normal models, and then for stuff like eyewears, they can leverage on the face tracking feature.
I see. So one key question would be for one to to at least use SwiftXR to the fullest potential, one needs to a large extent already have a pre-made 3D component. So what of customers or consumers that either are not 3D modelers or do not have these assets prepared already? Is there a plan in the future or a current plan that caters to those people so that they are also able to deliver experiences even if they do not have knowledge or assets, but they are looking at certain 3D experiences to deploy? Is there a plan for that in the future, a current plan to accommodate those sort of people?
Yeah,
Hello?
okay, yeah. So I think I think definitely for that, you know, one of the things that we've done now is we've enabled our image converter system, right? So definitely, even though we're focused on 3D generalists, but there are currently 3 ways we are looking to solve that, right? So the first way is we are building this image. Everyone definitely have access to a 2D image, right? Definitely you have a JPEG or a PNG, right? So
Yeah.
at least to some extent, you can play around with our artwork components where you just drop your 2D image, and then that can just spin up like an artwork for you. So that means at least anyone can use that component, right? And then we are also currently in partnership. We are we're actually not in partnership, but currently in conversation with Sketchfab to see how we can bring Sketchfab integration into SwiftXR, right? So what I mean is we'd have over 1 million of 3D assets from Sketchfab, directly embedded in SwiftXR, right? And that's definitely going to be, again, we're currently in conversation, and let's see how that's.
So this means your customers in the future would be able to leverage already made 3D assets on Sketchfab if the
Exactly.
conversation goes well on SwiftXR directly.
Exactly.
Awesome.
And then the last one is there's this new stuff actually happening now in 2D, what we call GANs 3D. So GANs 3D it's a new machine learning algorithm where you can convert pictures into 3D model, and it's really, really good. Pictures, again, so you don't need to have multiple faces of the picture, just a single picture, and then that single picture can convert that into a 3D model straight up. So we are also looking at that. Again, might not happen now, but something might happen like next couple of a year or 2 years, where we can tap into that kind of API or machine learning model on our platform, and people can come, just drop any kind of 2D images, like 2D images, and that's going to generate or to spin up like a 3D.
Did you say GAS 3D? For those that are
yes,
interested,
GAS.
GAS.
Yeah, GANs.
Spell it.
It's from NVIDIA GANs 3D. NVIDIA GANs 3D.
NVIDIA.
Yeah, NVIDIA GANs 3D. And also there's also, I think the photo actually, I think it's a 3, but it's also 4. The last one is also the iPhone, right? So iPhone already has this LiDAR scanner where you can just scan 3D assets, right? So although there's issue with operability, with the USDZ file that comes out from iPhone, but then if we've seen a way to actually re-engineer that USDZ back into GLB, just
would that need a lot of cleanup? Because usually, at least from my own experience, when you scan things, it would require a lot of cleanup to make the model ready for use.
Yeah, so, exactly. Actually, it might be quite hard, but I feel like once you can get that pipeline, sorted out, then it just means that anyone can just come with their with the iPhone and just take it straight into SwiftXR. Again, maybe wishful thinking for now, but maybe sometimes in the future.
No, I don't think it's wishful thinking. I just think I don't know. As long as it is part of the pipeline, then that's cool. Because you're already achieving some things now. Some things should be put in place for the future. So what do you see in terms of how many deployments do you have now? The last time I checked, you had over 500 plus deployments. Do you know how many you have now?
Yeah, currently now we have 600 plus deployments.
So which region do you think your deployment happens most? Is it in Africa or is it outside? And why that region do you think there is a higher volume there?
So technically, I would say our deployment happen mostly in the US. That's currently where we see high volume of deployment. And again, that's because I think there's much more awareness and use case for them there on why they should use AR as compared to a Nigerian kind of stuff. although we are seeing guys already, and that's one of the reasons why we're also trying to push, also here. But I say like the US and Nigeria, that's like how we see like deployments currently happening.
So what's the strategy to ramp up African deployment? Because it's at least from my own personal perspective, it is not that people do not need it. It is that they do not know yet that they need it, especially businesses. In fact, it's not even customers. So are there strategies to like get to those people? Are there strategies to imbibe that knowledge in people or grow that motivations in Africa? Or are you looking to target where you think your strong base actually is, which is the US and outside?
Yeah, I think actually for now, right, we have some couple of webinars that we're currently spinning up in terms of to ramp up our community. And at the same time, because we're currently in developing our payment future. So, for now, like SwiftXR is completely is open.
Free.
Content are open free. So we are currently actually developing like our payment feature, which should be out sometime next week, right? So once we have all those pipeline ready, then we can now push properly. And one of our target actually is to go to school, especially talk to students in schools, like people in the architecture space, architecture engineering students, to say, okay, architecture student already works with 3D asset, right? So you can bring the 3D assets and just instantly drop it into SwiftXR. That kind of enabling feature where you can take a 3D asset, drop it into SwiftXR, and instantly generate like a 3D view or AR view of a 3D asset. And, we're also cost effective. So, yeah.
Okay, so let's speak directly to people that want to utilize it. So let's say, for example, businesses. And yes, we talked about school, but maybe we'll expand more on that. But especially businesses. So I'm a business, and I don't know, any business. Let's say I'm a hotel or a business that does real estate. So how would you advise that they come on SwiftXR? How would you advise that they utilize it end to end? And what sort of output would they have from it? Would they be able to embed it on their site, this and that?
Yeah, nice. So actually, one way that we had conversations with people, and the one way that we feel like SwiftXR can really, really help any business that's currently listening to this or even like post this is a way to speed up your internal workflow, right? So the idea is this, right? Why do you need to share your designs or your concepts in a video or in a 2D file? Why not make it interactive? So most of these real estate companies that we currently have in Nigeria or even architectural firm, when they want to sell stuff or share stuff, right, they share those stuff as a render, as a 2D image or as a video. But meanwhile, the architect already has the source file that he used to generate all those render. So why can't the architect just take that same source file, drop it into SwiftXR, and actually have like an interactive 3D view of that same, that same building, and also and all this is only going to happen in just 2 clicks. Architect just drags the 3D mode, export it to SwiftXR and publish it, and that's all. So that's like one way that they can also think about leveraging. And of course, like it's going to start more from the architecture side, right? So the actual architect or the actual 3D generalist on the team that's actually working with the core assets should be the one using SwiftXR. So because the person can understand how can he export the assets, directly from that platform, and then drop it in SwiftXR, generate the link. So the idea is that, as I said, we need to think beyond sharing those concepts as 2D images or videos, right? Why not make it much more interactive?
I see. So let's also speak to those that already have a deployed website, right? So I already have my deployed websites. Most of my images, let's say I built a real estate. Most of my houses are already in 2D images. Is there a way I can simply deploy my assets in 3D because I already have the 3D assets of it? Sorry. Yeah, I already have 3D assets of it, but is there a way for me to embed those interactive 3D on my site? What I'm thinking right now is iframe, but I think that feature already exists, but I wanted you to expand more on that.
Oh yeah. So actually, we actually have the iframe feature where once you publish again on our platform, because once you publish outside of our platform, we don't have access to help you host that particular app, right? But if you host your app on our platform, you can generate an iframe link where you can just pass that link to your developer, and you're able to actually embed that same model on your website. And the good thing about this is we have like a really smart particular component that we call the indexable component, where we use for e-commerce and stuff like this. So if you have like a whole lot of 3D models that you want to put on your website, you particularly don't need to create a lot of projects on SwiftXR. It's just going to be a single project where you can now, like programmatically switch all those models.
I see. So there's one feature that I'm struggling to understand well, which is the NFT feature, right? So what is the thought behind that? Is it that currently if I deploy my assets on your site, I can directly convert it to NFT? What exactly does that cover?
Okay, so actually the NFT feature is a feature that's right on the artwork feature. So as I explained earlier, the artwork feature was just saying, okay, an artist can come to SwiftXR, which is artwork, and easily spin up, like an actual artwork of this stuff and deploy it, right? But now the NFT feature is right on top of the artwork feature to say that, okay, let us get your particular 2D NFT. Again, NFT content, most of them are like 2D images, right? So the NFT feature taps into your wallet, checks what the kind of NFT you have currently. It takes your image and then now converts that image into the particular 3D artwork. Now, why we are doing the NFT feature is because in talks with some NFT marketplaces currently to see how we can power. So you can imagine stuff like OpenSea currently now, right? They sell NFTs, but then those NFTs are just as a 2D, image, right? But then if some of like conversion go well, what I mean is you now start to see NFT marketplaces having 3D enabled assets, get them like 3D enabled artwork. So you can think about that, monkey, like the ape NFT, right? Instead of having the ape NFT as just a 2D image, it will just be like an interactive 3D image where people can even, put on their wall and deploy in AR. So that's what is driving the NFT feature.
So end to end for NFT, if I follow the process, it would be, let's say I had a 2D image, I brought it to SwiftXR platform, right? That 2D image is converted to a 3D image with your, I've forgotten 3D conversion tool, right?
Yeah.
Is it a 3D conversion tool?
No,
right?
I mean
the artwork conversion. So that's after being converted, I can decide, or the customer can decide to convert that artwork also to an NFT, right? Are they able to deploy directly to OpenSea or
no? So I think so.
Or is minted on the platform?
So we don't mint on SwiftXR. We're just saying that bring your minted assets. So for example, let's say you've minted like 2 NFTs on OpenSea, right? You can come to SwiftXR, drop your OpenSea wallet address. We can fetch all the NFTs you have on OpenSea and NFTs you have on OpenSea into a 3D asset. Do you get?
Oh. So what you are saying now is artists that already have like 2D images or even NFTs that are already selling or something can basically just utilize SwiftXR to convert their 2D images to 3D assets and redeploy that to their OpenSea.
Exactly.
Oh. That makes sense. That seems like a new a market space that can be addressed on its own minus every other thing that you've been talking about so far. That's like another targeting artists that already have their 2D images set up to convert it to 3D and republish.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, correct? So major, like as long as your NFT have like the metadata, right? You can just give it back to the website and just mint back your 3D model and you have it as a 3D asset.
So what do you think the 2 years or future plan is? Yes, we've talked about like certain features that are yet to come out, like the image tracking, face tracking. What's the WebVR component?
Yeah, so the WebVR component, it's all we are SwiftXR, right? So even though now like most of the components we have now is just targeted towards AR, and not really VR, right? So the VR component is also like the same stuff. You have a 3D asset, you bring it into our space, and you can view that asset in AR. Sorry, in VR rather.
In VR. I see what you mean. Okay. So what's the if you solve SwiftXR in a year, 2 years time, what do you think you would want to have achieved? What do you think you would want to have? Apart from these features, I don't know how long in terms of timeline you plan to achieve the image tracking, face tracking. But SwiftXR in 2 years, what would you want that brand to be known for?
Yeah, I think, particularly one thing we're trying to drive at SwiftXR is in the next 2 years, right? Can someone think about, I want to publish a 3D object or a 3D asset or a 2D asset into AR or VR easily, right? And the person just thinks SwiftXR. Like that's really what we're trying to drive. So that thinking that everyone just like, that, okay, this is my 3D asset, right? I want to convert it into AR or VR, or this is my 2D image or whatever asset I have. I want it to just drop into AR VR easily, right? Then the person just take like, default to like SwiftXR.
So one thing that I've noticed so far is not technical people might not face as much problem. So what do you think about non-technical people, especially people that don't know much about like 3D assets but still wish to deploy? Are there like accommodations for those? Do they get in contact with you? What's your thought around that? Non-technical people so far.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So one, like we have our docs. So our docs is actually like boldly written on our own page. So if you go to our own page, you see the docs that you can read. So again, I know docs can sometimes get scary and add a lot of information, and like, that's why we also have our community. So if you go to our community tab, you can join our Discord community, and just drop everyone there is always ready to just answer your questions or anything that you have on our Discord page. So that's a way that you can, and also we also try to make sure that any component we are shipping out or any feature that we're shipping out in terms of UI design, we try to make sure that it's not complicated at all. It's like super, super and relatively easy to use. That's, one of the things that are actually driving us at the back.
I see. So from what you are saying now, in the next few years, you want SwiftXR to be the household name for people that wish to deploy their 3D assets instantly on the web, first. Secondly, your designs are simple and easy to understand. So is your doc. Is that correct?
Exactly.
Yes. I sincerely don't know how much questions to ask again. I thought asking questions will bring more and more conversation, but it seems we've consumed most of the things that need to be said. Do you have anything to say more about SwiftXR that I've not covered?
Yeah, I mean, not anything necessarily per se, but I think particularly one thing that I've noticed is, I remember like when we started SwiftXR, it felt what I call it, it felt unique. But as we start to do stuff, we start to say, okay, I think there are more guys in this space that actively play. I remember when we started a little bit last year, last year they will launch early this year. I think a lot of stuff is actually happening in this WebXR space, particularly WebXR, right? It's actually ramping up at really, really like light speed. Yeah, so
yeah. Okay, so what is that one thing or a few things that you think would set you apart from your consumer, of course, from your competitors? So what is that one thing or a few things that you wish to put in place or you currently think about that you think sets you apart from the competitors that whoever is hearing this should definitely check out SwiftXR? At least
yeah,
one for me
I
is
think
that
one is
before you go on, one for me is that it started in Africa. So no matter what any other platform is, this platform started in Africa. So Africans definitely should first check this out before checking out external products. That's one big point for me. You have Africa as like one stronghold that I think other markets have not tapped into or yet. Others from you.
nice. I'll say one is in terms of ease of use, right? I mean, coming from, I myself, I'm a technical person, I'm a developer, I'm developing for over the like past half a decade already, right? And it's like all the learnings, all those headache, all those outbreaks that I've faced using some of these platforms, right? I actually try to address them on SwiftXR. So SwiftXR is so easy to use. I mean, I kid you not, right? I was this particular app. I won't mention the name actually because we're working, and then they wanted to just like have a chair and then put the chair in air, right? And then there was just a whole lot of hula baloo, like left and right. I was like, my God, if you just bring asset into SwiftXR, drop it, you're going to deploy this thing in less than 10 seconds, and you're done. Right. So I would say is that ease of use. And I think for now, right, I don't think I've seen any platform that actually addresses the ease of use as easy as SwiftXR, the way we addressed it. Second one
So ease of, yeah, go on,
is
go on,
of
go on.
use.
Sorry.
So, no, go ahead, doing something.
No. Go on.
Is of use. And the second is also like our cost, right? Is deploying AR/VR solution is expensive, right? If you look at what it takes to publish stuff, is really, really expensive. And particularly the way we are currently addressing this is we are using something which again, which I'm actually going to launch next week, and we call it like credit system, right? So what this does is, so rather than actually tying people down to say, okay, I won't say you see tying down per se, but rather than actually having people to commit, because what we've noticed particularly is, so people just want to deploy something once, right? And that's all they want to do, maybe once a month, right? But then oftentimes, most of like computer platform actually like have only subscription based models, right? So what I mean is you have to pay flat fee every month. So whether you're going to deploy just one stuff, you're still going to pay that monthly subscription, right? So we're trying to address it in a way that, okay, let us have both, right? Let's have our normal subscription plan. Let's also have a credit system, so our platform, and say, okay, I want to deploy this thing in air, right? You then compute and say, okay, how much is it going to cost me in terms of credit? You buy that credit, which can be as low as $1. You buy it, you deploy it, and you move. So that's actually two stuff that I would say that's actually like going to set us apart, at least for now.
So ease of use and an appropriate, I don't know how to define that, but a reasonable costing system.
Exactly.
Is that correct? A very reasonable costing system. Okay. So before costing system, people like things for free. So when you do deploy your payment system, would there be like 2 deployments for free, 5 deployments for free? What's the thoughts behind that? Or from the get-go, they get to pay, or what? How would that payment system work?
Yeah. So what happened is, so once you actually sign up on SwiftXR, you get to have 3 credits. So 3 credits means that you get to deploy your project that's worth 3 credits. So for every people that actually comes to SwiftXR, you actually get to have that credit. Actually, as we move further, we're going to decide, like again, based on what we see from our users, right? What should be the ideal, maybe base credit to have. But for now, we're going to start with 3 credit and just like see how it goes, sort of. Yeah. But by the same time, we believe that since the cost system is relatively cheap, so even if you want to try it out, you at least be able to try out it like using the base credit system.
I see. So before we go, I think we should get a bit technical, right? For those that are interested in the technical details of achieving this. So what are the things do you think are the underlying technologies behind this, and how do you is there a growth going on under the, like, do you get better every day in terms of developing the technology? I don't know how to ask the question, but it's more like, what is the underlying technology behind SwiftXR, and do you project a growth for that technology over time as time goes on? Yes, we are already adding NFT features, image tracking, that is some sort of growth. Well, yes, what is the underlying technology behind it, and do you project a growth
like one way that
moving forward?
we actually work on is this. We actually use a lot of backbone. So there's a particular component called backbone JS that we leverage a lot, right? And what backbone does is, backbone is like a component system, because one thing that we need to be careful about is we need to build component that can sit on top of each other, right? So for example, you get to see that I talked about like the model viewer, right? And now we have the artwork component, right? Now you see that the artwork component sits on top of the model viewer component. We have the NFT component. The NFT component sits on top of the artwork component, which sits on top of the model viewer component. So a way that we can extend all those components without actually breaking the whole system. So making all stuff modular, and this is actually what Backbone does for us. So actually we're gonna expand more on this moving to the future. In terms of stack, of course, is WebAR. We use a lot of TypeScript because, if you're building, app at large scale like that, you want to be sure that, everything doesn't fail. So we use TypeScript. For our web parts, we work a lot with 3JS. Again, it's like a lot of libraries. And this is crazy because we have to build as vanilla, like we are building vanilla app, right? So in that sense that we can't leverage on frameworks. So again, which particularly makes SwiftXR really hard to build is because of we are using a lot of libraries, we have to actually do our stuff from scratch in a way to like we can have harmony with all these libraries. Because if you go and try to use like a particular front-end framework or a particular framework, right, you're going to be having issue trying to debug all those bugs from somewhere. And because we're working with Babylon, we're working with A-Frame, Google Model Viewer, we're using 3JS, again, a lot of all those libraries. So yeah. So that's
with the lack of framework not affect scalability.
No,
because if you're not using a framework, for example, then scalability might be a bit hard. Tomorrow you might want to be twice as big, and if everything is vanilla, won't that affect scalability to an extent?
So particularly, even though vanilla, for example, I mentioned Backbone, right? So Backbone is like one of the core tech that you see behind stuff like Vue and React, for example, right? So even though we're vanilla, right? We're vanilla, but thinking scalability. So I said all those stuff actually like all this stuff that I mentioned to you are currently like in components, right? So if we need to like switch, we can actually still switch, but we can't really go crazy with our switching because of the amount of library I use. Again, it's something that we are continuously thinking about in terms of, and I think SVF might actually just be our solution. It's a framework that came out, I think in 2019 or 2020. It's relatively new.
What do you call it?
SVF. So again, I'm just gonna like if you're actually a front end engineer, just listening to this, it's definitely a framework to check out. Like the address again, most of our problem relatively easy, and we're actually already exploring XVF, and it seems it might just solve our problem because it doesn't like compiles like in runtime, but instead it compiles pre-runtime, and it's it makes stuff really modular for us. So yeah, so that's one of the things actually considering now.
One thing about current web society, or one thing about software solution in general currently is security. Although I do not see how, in fact, let me not give my opinion on this. It is more like I want to ask you, how secure is SwiftXR to use? Is there any security consideration for customers to think about? Things like that.
Yeah, I mean, so definitely there's always a security problem, somewhere. And that's why particularly what we try to do is we try to offload most of your stuff on your laptop, right? Or your system. So what I mean is, rather than engaging rather than engaging like a remote server somewhere else to run stuff, we run stuff on your own machine, right? And because we are not particularly taking stuff away from your machine, right? There's less security risk. So it's happening in your system, and it's your system alone, right? So yeah. Yeah, and there's also like issue with again, this is a general issue. There's always issue with 3D models, right? So oftentimes when you load 3D models on the web, right? There's always a way that people actually strip out 3D models, from the web. I know there are ways to solve this, and it's something that we've solved in one way, by completely, the chunking the assets, and then it's only a particular SwiftXR, a particular SwiftXR like script that can actually recompile that stuff back in runtime. So it's something that actually, again, even though we've
I am technical, but even I was lost in that explanation of 3D model that you were just talking about. So okay, if you would like to.
Yeah. So what happened is there's always a problem, as I said, so generally there's a problem with geo, right? This is even with games. If you're playing a game, right, I can use like a GPU stripper, and I can get that game asset. So if I'm playing God of War or Call of Duty, right, I can actually get all the things that they use in my game. I can extract it out, because whenever I render something, you're actually rendering it on your GPU or whatever graphic device you're using, right? And that asset is actually loaded on the stuff. So there are particularly software that can go into your GPU and remove those assets, even though it requires like quite an high level of technical skill set to use it, right? So so again, there's little to zero preventive measure you can actually do against that. But what we try to do again, like to the best of our ability, at least we solve it to some certain extent. And as I mentioned earlier, what we do is right from where if you publish your asset via SwiftXR, we are going to take the assets, and then we're going to chunk it. So we're going to completely break it out. and then we'll now send you break it out via the web. So what I mean is, if you get the asset, it's not going to work for you because it's going to be broken. Then on runtime, when anybody load your app, we now stitch it back together and then I'll pass it. So that way, like, you're not like getting it. So it happens in runtime. So
that serves as some sort of encryption ish.
Exactly. Encryption.
I see.
So I mean, it's still. It's still. Like security that's actually still growing. It's something that I think is going to get better as time goes on. But yeah, like that's what we do about now.
So most of the things that are done on SwiftXR are done offline. When they come on your website, I'm guessing they load the necessary modules to actually be able to carry out these things offline. When I say offline, I don't mean not online, I mean on their system, right?
Exactly.
Great. So so for companies working on models, for example, that they feel like should be classified, that's models that they don't want to share out there. Are these models in any way uploaded to your server, to your system? Do you have access to these models, or everything is done on their system and you don't have access to it? That could be one of the.
Yeah. So actually for now, right, we don't have access to anybody model. So what I mean is, if today you're working on SwiftXR, right, we have no way to actually tell what kind of model. As I mentioned earlier, we've actually offloaded most of this stuff on your system, right? And that's sort of like increase the security for us. So we're actually going to move to a state because we've seen some particular customers actually asking us that, they want to like do online sync. So we are moving to a state whereby we're actually going to have two states where, we're going to have local states and then we're going to have like online sync. So you're actually free to decide what kind of approach you want to take to deploy your app.
Okay, I think that's about it. I don't have any more questions. Thank you very much for coming on.
Oh, Hammed. Nice. Awesome.
So one interesting thing that, although I think I would have mentioned it already in the intro, is that we have worked together and we did school together. So it's nice seeing you making a lot of, waves out there with SwiftXR. And I look forward to more.
Hammed. Awesome. Thank you. I think you're also doing fine, but you're just being humble. Like a lot of your work you've been working on. But yeah.
No. We try our best. We are trying our best. Well, thank you very much for coming on the show.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you.
I look forward to more from SwiftXR. Thank you very much.
Thank you. You too.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay, let me stop recording.